The 7 deadly sins: pride, greed, and today we look at the topic of wrath. Now, wrath, anger, or rage are all kind of synonymous. They go hand in hand. But the issue of sinful anger or sinful rage or wrath equals such when the emotions or desires of that anger are unwarranted. For example, someone might see evil happen to an innocent person and be outraged by that and be angry by that. That is not a sin. In fact, that's a charitable act towards an innocent person, wanting their justice, right? But rage or wrath becomes sinful when our desires are unwarranted, unjustified, and when we direct it towards someone who is innocent. Now, the sin of wrath or rage is not just when we harm or desire harm towards someone who's innocent. It could also be a justified anger towards a true and genuine harm, but we desire the punishment to be too excessive, or we harbor the grudge too long. For example, say a person offended you in high school. They said something mean about you, and you thus, were upset about it. And then 20 years later, you still will not talk to the person, you still harbor a grudge against the person, you still perhaps wish them the worst. This is the sin of rage and wrath, for it's taken hold of you, and you have not let it go. When the Apostle Paul gives a list of the acts of the flesh which are contrary to the fruit of the Spirit, fits of rage are one of these acts. And the worst thing that comes from rage and wrath, as Jesus points out, these evils that well up from within men's heart, is they never produce the godliness or even the justice that we so desire. In fact, many times our rage is wanting payback for an injustice, but our hatred or wrath ends up causing more hatred, more injustice, and oftentimes only hurt ourselves. They oftentimes don't even affect the people that we're angry against. Oftentimes they don't know, but they do affect more than just ourselves, because the people around us and the world that we're in is going to be affected when our heart is in the wrong place. How do we overcome this rage or wrath? Oftentimes it's uncontrollable. It just wells up within inside of us. But this is why the scripture calls us to love our enemies. This takes an act of volition on our part to pray for those who spitefully use us. Again, this takes an act of prayer on our part. So when we put into practice love and charity, which are the opposite of rage and wrath, then we begin to act out in ways that are Christ-like. We begin to forgive. Maybe a person at church has hurt us, maybe our spouse, maybe a family member, maybe an enemy. Whatever it is, pray for them, love them, forgive them, and we will overcome these fits of rage, these acts of wrath, and we will allow true godly justice in its place.